I'm sure there's a majority of you here that have known about the Muny way longer than I have, so I appreciate you guys kind of entertaining me on this. But one of my goals here today is to let you know all the things that we have going on that are updates. So one of the things I'm going to start with is talking about this docu-series that we started. And it's not hour-long episodes or anything like that. It is a project that was started by our archives department that worked with our digital communications manager to create this series. And if you like what you see today, it is on YouTube. It is under our Muny account on YouTube, and you can see multiple episodes. But I'm going to show you first the trailer, which is about a minute, and then the first episode that's only 5 minutes. And it will touch on the history, but it'll maybe show you some pictures that you might not have seen before.
It's one of the greatest civic artistic accomplishments in the history of this nation.
When you have 10,000 people paying direct attention to one moment, you feel the energy.
It's a deep-rooted tradition that highlights our values.
Sharing joy together specifically, I think, is one of the greatest boosts to the health of the community. That's what we're doing here.
If you're going to have a summer theater with 11,000 seats, it damn well better be special.
And now we're going to get into the first episode.
You drive through Forest Park in the midst of a summer evening, and in the stillness, suddenly, from somewhere over there among the trees, you hear a harmony of sounds, the welling measure of song, the song of our opera.
In November of 1915, 3 people were searching St. Louis's Forest Park for a place just like this. Nelson Cunliffe, Parks Commissioner, Livingston Platt, a set designer from New York, and leading the charge was actress and producer Margaret Anglin, a creative visionary of her time. They were looking for a spot to stage an outdoor production of Shakespeare's As You Like It, to commemorate the 300th anniversary of the playwright's death. They happened upon a patch of land between 2 mighty oaks and a receding hill that mimicked the theater. Anglin spoke a few words from the play, then her voice carried through the air with ease. She smiled, looking at the natural space around her. They had found the magic.
While the space had been found, Anglin and her team had a long way to go. Turning this grassy knoll into an outdoor theater was going to be a next to impossible undertaking. But Anglin believed that this endeavor was worth the effort. She told the park's commissioner, "You must go into a big venture with blind courage. If you stop to think of the difficulty along the way, your heart will fail you."
I would say that any act of creation, which is what all this is always an act of blind faith. You believe that your colleagues will provide and do. You believe that an audience will be there to receive it, and you have to have the courage to believe those two things are going to come together.
Finally, in the summer of 1916, lights went up on Margaret Anglin's production of As You Like It in Forest Park. The production was a resounding success. Nearly 40,000 people attended the 8 performances, and the New York Times called it brilliant. Anglin urged the city that a permanent stage be built for future generations of St. Louis.
It's certainly true now that the Muny is unique, but it was so much truer at its foundation. That was, not only was it one of a few, it was the first, right? So at that moment, imagine a community building a theater this size, at this scale, to dream this big 105 years ago. It was one of one in the world.
The following year, work began to make this dream a reality.
We were finding a lot of the original history was still there, maybe painted over a couple times, but the original concrete, when you see all the old photos with the concrete being brought in by wagons, that was the original concrete that was out there. That concrete's actually still there.
And so, in following Margaret England's blind courage, St. Louis built a permanent theater in Forest Park. In the summer of 1919, the Municipal Opera held its inaugural season. Robin Hood launched the summer, and music filled Forest Park every night for 6 weeks. On the final night of the season, Mayor Keel announced that it had been a howling success, and they planned to do it all again next year. Cheers filled the theater, and a heartfelt rendition of Auld Lang Syne punctuated the summer, beginning a 100-year-old tradition that audience members can still experience to this day.
Every single day, it's about blind courage, and the magic of it is that the audience feels it.
And so the Municipal Opera was born. From a single moment sprouted over 100 years of history. But the tests of blind courage were far from over. It would take more than magic to turn this seedling of a theater into a mighty oak.
That is just kind of the trailer in episode 1. If that is something of interest, we have some great episodes, such as there's one that talks about when the stars align, when the United, let's see, I had all these titles written out here. Alone in Its Greatness, the People's Theater, which talks about how all the funding for the theater started to create what led to what we have today. And just kind of eventually this all started last year, so November 8th of 2023. So we did season 1, where there's 8 episodes, and they're about 5 to 8 minutes. And then season 2 just started last week, and the episode was on concerts. So yes, if you're interested, that's definitely something to check out. And they have a lot of really cool video clips and pictures and all these things that you don't really see on social media. It's just those things that we have found in our archives. That was taken care of very well by our director of archives, Laura Peters. So yeah, all right, here we go. My slideshow. I worked really hard. So we're going to start my slideshow now. All right, so there's kind of just a picture. Unfortunately, during that video, the live captioning was covering that up. But here we have this picture kind of showing obviously the 2 oaks at the bottom of the hill. And what ended up happening with those oaks is, unfortunately, they're no longer there. And I will talk about it more when I speak on the stage construction. But that is what they were talking about, is that at the bottom of the hill, they found this spot to do As You Like It for Shakespeare's 300th anniversary of his passing. Here's another picture that was in that video, just to kind of give you a little bit more time to look at it. You had just that, eventually it just turned into this slight platform of a stage where we were just packing people in. You have the orchestra right down in front of the stage. And again, those 2 massive oak trees that are hovering over the back. Again, here's even a better picture from the performance of Mikado. And you can kind of just see things slowly start developing around the stage. And then here is a picture of a packed house. And obviously we always strive to have it look like this, but you can see in the back, the last 9 rows, those were still free seats. That's what it was in the beginning. We always had the last 9 rows be free, and we still have that as a tradition today. All right, so so I know I mentioned that there's 2 things that I love talking about as Muny St. Louis, but I do, after living in St. Louis, I love talking about air circulation. Air circulation in the summertime is something that means a great deal to me now. I didn't see that coming before, but it does. I'm kind of showing a more recent picture, but previously we had these fans. Does anybody remember these fans? Yes. I bet you missed them. If you're curious about how the fans are doing, here is one that's hanging out outside of the desk that I'm temporarily working out of. It is 5 feet long from one side to the other, which was amazing because that is one of the blades that was up there. So yes, these are not here anymore. We eventually took those down in 2013. We had some funding from some great folks that eventually we could get in newer technology with shark fin, this shark fin blade where it can move air more efficiently and silently, and we can keep them going throughout a show to a point where we've actually have been asked to turn them off when it's 95-degree weather and because people are cold. So we're doing a good job, we're getting there. So eventually, once they were all up in 2013, this is what it was starting to look like. You have 4 massive tall fans sitting amongst the auditorium, but we still have a very old stage that we needed to be working on. So yes, this is one of my favorite pictures that we did. This was 2015 for Beauty and the Beast. So this was actually my first season, so that's what means a lot to me. I wanted to share it with you. So yeah, as you can see, with that stage, it is that really dark, black structures that are really, we're starting to get pretty old. They were getting to a point where it was getting dangerous to be putting on the kind of productions that we were doing. It was just kind of getting dangerous for not only the performers, but also our stagehands, our artists. And so, as you can see, some things were even peeling off. We're a nonprofit ourselves, and so we used everything as long as we possibly could. And here's a picture from a light bridge where you can kind of see some rust. But we would have guys walking back and forth, heading up this way, and that is something that definitely needed improvement. So we started putting on a capital campaign, and it was very successful, and that capital campaign it allowed us the ability to make the improvements that we needed in order to provide great theater, comfortable theater, and a place for our community can come together, because that was always the mission from the beginning. So once we did, we have, if you can kind of see, a newer light bridge going across, and a lot better than the last time, but we can safely have guys walking through that catwalk to fix whatever lights needed for that show and do it in a safely manner. And so eventually, with this light bridge, I'll kind of shift into the lighting that they put in. So instead of those extremely hot spotlights that were coming not only from the top, having these, the lights that on top, being a performer and having to be out in that heat, and then those lights on top of it, it was a lot, especially full costume, or maybe you're the Beast in Beauty and the Beast, and you just have layers and layers of clothes. It's hot, and it's overwhelming. So what they ended up doing is that there was this lighting company called Schell, and what they did is they worked with us. They learned about the conditions that we in St. Louis, what we deal with, and they had these LED lights that they tested up in the most northern parts of Alaska and the most southern parts of Florida, and even put it in a tank where there was a torrential downpour. All these things to make sure that there was going to be lights that we could put up here that with the LEDs, it's going to be softer on our actors. It's not as blazingly hot. Still warm, but not as hot. And also to the eye, it was a sharper image for the audience. It wasn't that blurry spotlight on somebody in the distance. It was more of a more clear focused vision that you could see with the actors. So yeah, this is kind of a picture from backstage. I have a lot of pictures from backstage, so I'm kind of wanting to give you guys a different angle on how these improvements, as well as how what we're trying to do is improve what our audience is seeing. So this is some of the chevet lights that are beaming down on our Dreamgirls set, and it's just been a really big difference, even though you can't maybe point it out when you're looking at it as an audience member, but you definitely feel a difference between 2019 and 2021 when we came back from lockdown. Okay, so we got this all in place, and we have the new light bridge. We got these LED screens that you're seeing. We got the one on house left, house right, and upstage. And this is when the stage wasn't fully completed yet. But circling back to my other favorite topic of air circulation, these blowers went in, which is 76 blowers on this side and 76 on that side, pushing air. And then with the help of my friends, they're moving this air around so that our audience, again, can be comfortable. So the difference between what their experience pre-show versus when they enter the house, it's just this breeze of air coming in, and it's lovely. It's one of my favorite things, and I love sharing that with people. Okay, so as I was mentioning, those LED screens that flanked the stage, as well as the one upstage, this is actually, I'll go back. So this guy right here in the middle, this LED screen in the back, it can open up right in the middle and somebody can walk through as a dramatic entrance. So this is, this little girl is the one that played our Matilda back in 2019. She eventually, once she left us, she went to go voice in Frozen 2. She played young Elsa. So that was exciting news that we got to find out when she was on site, and here it is, like her making a really cool dramatic entrance to play Matilda. So then also with the LED screens, not only does it help with those dramatic entrances, but also we can help keep your eyes focused on what's the set. So you have the scenic designer, the video designer that put this screen, the LED screen back here together, and then you have the trees that we put in after taking those oaks out. We have these trees. So if it had stopped there, this is what you'd be looking at. But because we have these LED screens flanking the stage, you almost sometimes don't even notice that the trees are a part of the set, just because it's drawing your eyes in. And it's really cool because sometimes in certain photos, it actually looks like real chandeliers that are up, but they are not. It is all video design. So yeah, this was a picture taken from Beauty and the Beast last year, 2023. So one of the things that I'm kind of moving on to mention is, I just talked about the towers that they put in with the air circulation in there and the fans and the LED screens, but we needed to work on the actual stage, what we are standing on, because we are different than other theaters. Because we are such a large stage, we are putting things out there that you can't really fit on an indoor stage. So like this, in All Shook Up in 2017, we had a Ferris wheel. Eventually this Ferris wheel is over on Del Mar Loop at the mini golf, but prior to that, we had a Ferris wheel on our stage. Or we have shows where we bring in Clydesdales. We are obviously doing a lot of things where we need a stage that can survive. And so what we ended up doing, this is Rent, and this large structure is supposed to represent a high-rise with also the scaffolding of a sidewalk. But But again, massive things, and also the cars that come out. So what we ended up doing is we teamed up, just kind of like how we did with the lights with Chevet. We worked with a company called Tait, T-A-I-T, and they are a stage designing company all the way in Cambridge, in England. They came over, checked out what we were working with, our weather conditions, the kind of shows that we put on, the incorporating trees in the back. They took every single factoid and they put it into creating a stage that could help last. So not only withstand the heavy stomping, tapping vehicles, all the things that our production manager throws in there, they wanted to help us find something that could last generations. So this is a picture of the turntable underneath the actual stage that you were just looking at. So this is kind of showing you that from where the stage is, there is about almost a 2-foot drop from where the top of the stage is to the concrete bottom. And in between there, we have that space for, these are the motor for the turntable. And this is kind of, these are panels right here of how thick they are that get laid down. And so what ends up happening is we can now store this in the off season so we can help it last longer. So right before our season, or right before we start preparing our property, we have all these storage crates come in that are filled with increments of our stage. They are brought out, they're cranes and lots of equipment that they won't let me touch. Our stage crew comes out and they start putting all of these pieces together and all these panels together to create our stage. And typically they start in April to do it, and it could take probably about a week or so to do just that part. And with this stage, this company, Tait, worked with us to help us with our automation system. And what this automation system does is that we have these tracks in, and you can kind of see what it looks like when the panel is lifted up, but this is what it looks like when it's not up, and it's just a track that goes across the stage. And what ends up happening is with the huge set pieces, they can get hooked into that track. And this gentleman right here is our director of automation, and he just presses a button and these set pieces will just start rolling on stage at its proper time. And this is very helpful to us, especially to prevent any injuries, any tired, taking care of our stage crew, and also making sure that everything is smoothed and timely transitioned. So yeah, that's him kind of making sure that all the automation wires are accurate. So here's some more in the process of that turntable. Is it just kind of starts coming together, again, by our stage crew, and eventually it will just keep going. Oh, and what I was going to mention, I do apologize. So another part of the construction, so Tait completely redid our stage and helped us figure out a way that this, again, can last and help us provide these performances. Well, the orchestra is no longer in front. So as of right now, well, permanently, down here is actually our new orchestra pit. And the nice thing is that our musicians can be in air conditioning, they can be near a bathroom, they can be away from bees that like to sting them when they're playing a trumpet. They can now be underneath the stage, and so then you have this kind of gate right here, but in between you have a music director that might choose to stand there, if not completely underneath the stage. Kind of depends on the vibe that they're going for. But what they'll do is orchestration's down here, and then on this side and that side, they have these lifts that will help bring up people, almost like a trap door, but a little bit more right in your eyesight. Whereas this guy over here, as well as one that's kind of like it on the other side, these are the trap doors that the Wicked Witch of the West will go down. Or this is, you know, where the escapologist and Matilda will arise, and it's this lift that's all in the orchestra room, but the actors just hop on this lift and it'll bring them to the stage. This is a lot better than the 4 feet of room that was under the old stage when we'd have a stage crew members be lifting people up to get them up smoothly. We have less injuries now, and it's much better. So this is the orchestra pit. So you have our music director here, and you have there's screens all around them, but this music director specifically wanted to sit with the orchestra. Sometimes we'll have a music director that will work out with the director. Maybe they want to have the orchestra on stage, like on your feet. They wanted to have kind of that Floridian mambo band where they were all together on site, on stage the entire time. Or sometimes there's music directors that want to be halfway up where they can see both, but we do have screens all around that they can still watch the tempo of the music director, the actors, and the musicians. And this is kind of the orchestra's view of when people are getting lifted to arise in front of the audience. So this one was from Dreamgirls when they are about to come up in a restaurant scene. Okay, so now this is what we look like. This is what we're looking like now. We got these shells that finally went up. We got fans going. We got all the things. We're ready to go to put on a season. And then we came to, and then we didn't stop. We obviously had to keep going with our construction. So just this week, we just broke ground for the upper plaza. Anybody familiar with behind the free seats? Kind of know what I'm talking about? Yeah. So this is now what that area is going to look like when people are lining up for the free seats. There's going to be an opportunity for folks to sit down. There's going to be more of an awning in the middle. I'll get a better picture in there. There's just going to be, like, up at the top, there's kind of an awning to cover piano for the pre-show entertainment. There's going to be fans put up there, more of my fans, but then some shade. There's really not a lot of shade up there right now, and so this is now going to be a nice space where there's a little bit more room, a little bit more elbow room. And also our box office, because we do have an upper box office during the season on the nights of shows, so now we can have them right near the parking lot as opposed to inside the gate and inside all the things. Now we have it a little bit more on the outside. You can see all the different shows lined up and all the screens that we'll have outside to come join us in. And so this is the Kim Young-jin Family Foundation that funded this. So it's going to be called the Kim Young-jin Family Plaza. It's going to be a mouthful, but we love Kim Young-jin. They are incredible, and they also help our community access program that I oversee on bringing nonprofits to see our shows for free. So it's an incredible family that they started coming to the Muny up in the free seats, and then they started moving forward as their family got older and bigger and all the things. So the Muny played such a big part to them that they funded this project, so now they can pass that on to folks to have an even better experience in the upper plaza. So 2024, we just passed our season. Did anybody come out this summer? Anyone? Yay! Okay. So you'll see some shows that you might have seen. I kind of collected the vibe of what it looked like prior to performance during pre-show, but as well as production photos and also backstage photos. So you can kind of get a glimpse of how we are putting on these productions. So we started with Les Miserables. And Les Miserables is one of my favorite shows growing up, so I was super excited about it, but it was gonna kick off a show where you have no less than 50 people on stage, and it was just an incredible all-around wholesome performance. So this is actually what we kind of have in the pre-show area where people can stand in front of a step and repeat with their families. This is actually our head of stage management in the blue dress. That's Evangeline. She's amazing. She's always around St. Louis. But she's in charge of all the stage managers. And then you have lawns where people can have some picnics and bring their food in for free. You can still do that. And then we got into the performance. We had this massive set piece, just kind of like what I showed you with Rent. You had this massive structure in the center that stayed there the majority of the show, and on the turntable it was just different scenes constantly as it was moving. So yeah, we also had Ken Page. This was his last performance. Unfortunately, he passed away not that long ago, and we were very sad because he was a part of our family. But the fact that he got to play this role as his last one, it's a good role to end on. So then we got a picture of Master of the House, and so again, all these set pieces almost stayed on at the same time, but just was used in multiple different ways to create different scenes. So obviously this is inside the inn. And then this is our big One Day More number when you got the flags waving and everybody just kind of preparing for what's going to come. But you can see production-wise, they're utilizing those lifts. You've got the music director right there, Jim Moore. He's incredible. He tends to do more of our bold productions, more classic. So he's incredible. Kind of Les Mis type of musicals. He's always there for. But you can also see our new lights are just beaming on the folks, and again, you have just a sharper image as opposed to just a blurry somebody standing in a spotlight. And we also are still incorporating our trees at all times. This is John Riddle. He kind of took on Jean Valjean this year. He was with us in Chess last year, and he's also starting to make a pretty big impact on Broadway. So we're very lucky that he loves coming to the Muny. And this is one of my favorite things that they did. I showed you a picture of when Matilda was going to enter from the back. This is when Javert is jumping to his death, and they kind of did this thing where it looks like he is falling to his death, and then on the other side, this is what he is going to walk back into, is that they just open this up, and he's going to come through. So when the show is about to start, all these dressers are starting to lay out all the items. There's not enough time for all these cast members to go to a dressing room. There's not enough time. So what they do is all of these costume changes are stacked on top of each other, and eventually it will look like this. It is a very fast-moving, chaotic mess, but it's very organized, and you have a dresser helping all of the actors get ready. So that's kind of what we have to do, especially this past season when every show had so many people. And this is Willie. She was our stage manager for Les Mis, and my favorite thing is that when I first started, she was an intern, and here she is directing all the timing of the shows. So keeping everybody on point. So I'm very proud of this picture. But this is the setup for a stage manager is that they are watching the video of what's happening on stage, as well as a video up top where they're watching the music director, as well as they have a timing mechanism. So everything is down to a timing, it comes down to timing. Here's a picture of our music director that I mentioned before, and this is just a different angle, and yeah, I like that one. So then we headed into Dreamgirls. It was very hot that week, and for our pre-show, we have some kids performing up in the upper plaza, and we also had some bands on the lawn closer to the lower level near our main box office. And we've been incorporating a lot of local bands to come perform. So this is a chance for folks to be introduced to people that are playing around St. Louis and trying to make their break in the music scene, but at least they can get some front time in front of folks while they're having food, picnicking, and sometimes people will get up and dance, so that's always fun. I love that. So here is a group of kids that are part of our intensive program, and what that is one of our education programs that we provide, and we have kids from all over the country will apply to go through this intensive program where they get to work with directors and with choreographers, and it's almost a boot camp for these high school kids and that are not local, that don't have the opportunity to be so close to us and the education programs that we have. So they apply, and not only do they go through this boot camp, they'll go camp out over at Webster University and kind of work with their staff and learn even more about what to expect when they move on and want to audition in college. And then eventually they get to be in a show. So they get to sit and watch Dreamgirls that night, and obviously they are very excited, and these kids are about to take off, so we're very happy. Here's some production photos that we had going on. Tiffany Mann was just incredible, and one fun touch for anybody that is a theater geek like myself, you can see that there is an Ultra Clutch can of hairspray, which is from when we did Hairspray back in 2016. So I like it when I can spot things in other shows. But this is her big And I Am Telling You number, and it was huge, huge standing ovation on that one. Great cast, and obviously it's a very fun show, and then with incorporating the trees, sorry, it's kind of hard to see. So with the trees in the back, like I said, the oak trees are gone, and we have 4 that got planted in. But what happened is that to ensure that they can live, is they were planted into these soil cells. And the soil cells are, you have the trees right here, and then the soil cells are at the bottom, and they have a chance for the roots to grow. So it's one of those things that we wanted the trees to grow with us. And they were hand-selected from a tree farm out in Illinois. And they were chosen because they have leaves that can withstand the weather that we have, the lighting, the production, technical designs that we utilize. These leaves can withstand it, and it's not going to hurt them. So that was a very big part of it, is that we are trying to work with things that can work with them, things that we're not going to hurt. So we want to be able to grow with our trees, with this stage, and we want this to last a long time. Again, great production numbers. You got that LED screen in the back, rocking it, and just kind of setting that tone. But again, you can see those trees sneaking in, photobombing these pictures. And then this is one of those fun aspects where on the LED screen, they have an audience that way, and while you can see a backstage setting on the inside. So you're almost getting this flip view. And that's one of the great things about having these LED screens, to kind of even create a more in-depth vision for you. We got some final numbers, and then our mayor, she joined the show. She was an usher a long time ago when she was a teenager, and so it was a big thing when she got a chance to do a walk-on. So we were very excited, because we love when even somebody that's a mayor, but even somebody that was an usher or a picker or somebody that worked with us, they get to eventually be on stage. It's kind of like that full circle story. And then to flip it around to talk about what it looks like backstage, this is how many people are dressing somebody to throw them back out on stage. Obviously, Tiffany Mann did not have enough time to get back to her dressing room to get changed and come back. They need to do a whole switch around with the cunning use of magnets. Do not underestimate the use of magnets. And then you got some time when the actors start messing around with props. And then just kind of like how Les Mis, when laying out those costumes, same deal. It might not be throughout the entire show that they need to have a quick change like this, but for this one, there was just a couple times where it was necessary. Other times there is just quick change sheds that are in the back that they can hop in, change, get back out. But the ones when a whole ensemble is needing to change, this is what it looks like. And this is one of our stage managers that's going through the prop checklist to make sure that everything that needs to be on that cart is there. So it's a lot of double, triple, quadruple checking to make sure that everything is ready. And obviously we're getting this nice vehicle out for the Cadillac number, but this is kind of what it looks like when it's just parked in the back. Our stagehands are getting ready to roll out, and it's always fun. And I actually got to be on the receiving end when this car showed up. I was working road closures in the park, and this car pulls up, and I didn't know that there was going to be this car in the production. And I'm like, excuse me, this road is closed. And they're like, we got to get into the show. I'm like, oh, all right. So I guess I let them through. No. Then we moved to Little Mermaid. This was obviously our family show. It was such a nice, just when you start having the wave of kids that are coming in, the wave of costumes that they're wearing. Sometimes they're wearing costumes of different Disney princesses, and that's okay. We love it when the kids dress up. But we have some pre-show activities for them to do. Obviously, the plaza was getting a little bit more packed, and we had some picnic areas, and people were just starting to storm in. And this is Savvy Jackson. She was our Little Mermaid, our Ariel. She was so wonderful, and we really hope that she wants to keep coming back because she was just lovely. Our director was this gentleman named John Tartaglia, and he's very big in Broadway world. If you follow any Broadway podcasts or anything, he has his own, but also he's very well known for his work in Avenue Q, and he's really big in the Jim Henson puppeteering world. So a lot of his shows, he incorporates some kind of puppeteering. And so this one was definitely incorporating that, whereas when we did Little Mermaid in 2017, at that time, the Flotsam and Jetsam was two guys in a costume acting it out. Where this one, they're all wearing these, hide in the blues outfit, and then with the arms through the puppets, just to kind of have that effect. This was one of my favorite, the booms that they had up. So obviously, we can't have curtains because of the conditions of being outside, and so we have these booms. And the nice thing about them is that they're all created freehand, even though a set designer will draw the image, create the image, and give this piece of paper to our stage crew or to our scenic painters, and they take this and they freehand draw it on a big canvas that's probably the size of this platform here. And eventually it gets to the point it looks like this, and then it gets hung up on an electric boom that will move it on and off stage. It's an incredible process, and it's just beautiful how much of an ocean they made this look like and how strong it looked. And then mixing in with the video design in the back, it almost looks like it was all created together. It's kind of showing up a little dark, I do apologize, but for this one, as far as it goes with the technical tricks, this is when Prince Eric is drowning, and we have him on a rigging system hanging upside down, and we have Ariel that's about to swim over and save him. And so they're both on a rigging system on stage as if they were underneath the water. So that was a different approach that they did this year, which I really enjoyed that artistic touch on it. So then eventually she saves him, and she's swimming to the top, and the rig is pulling her up. So yeah, she saves him, and they have their big Under the Sea number. Again, utilizing that rigging system. I mean, it's up. You might as well just throw some trapeze artists on there and call it. And for Ursula, they have these puppeteers that are, her tentacles are the tentacles are the arms of these gentlemen that are all surrounding her. So she's actually sitting on this cart, just kneeling on it, and these guys are leaning forward, having their arms be the tentacles, and their legs are getting hidden. And it was one of those cool things that we tried it back in 2017, and it worked so well that we actually brought that costume back. It was just a really nice invention of what they did. Big scuttle number, and yeah, lots of colors on this one. They did a really amazing job. And cut to, this is what it looks like backstage during the show, is that you got to run King Trident to him backstage. And here's another picture of a stage manager that is really in charge of the show at this point. You have the director that had the vision, and worked with the set designers and everybody to get in, and the actors to know what their role is, and then eventually they hand it over to the stage manager, and they are in charge the rest of the time. They're calling the shots, and they're the ones, the voices that you hear when we were going into a rain delay. We're gonna pause for a second. We'll be right back. So here's a different look of what the rigging system looked like from behind Ariel. Is that she's literally floating above the stage. There's Ursula and her tentacles posing together, having fun. Then we got into Fiddler. Fiddler is, we did it back in 2016, I want to say. So I was really curious how they were going to meet the challenge of how do you make sure that's that folks are not just watching the same thing. How is this director going to take this task on? And the director, Rob Ruggiero, he did a wonderful job. We got our fiddler up there hanging out, but they did this set. Did anybody see this one? This was probably one of the coolest things I ever got to see, is that the set didn't move. We didn't use booms opening and shutting. This stayed like this the entire time, and it gave the visual that you were looking down the street of a village. And it was a really cool touch that they did that, and I think that was, it was so new, and I love when our artists try something. Again, that blind courage that they were talking about is, they have this idea, let's try it, let's put this together and see if it works, and it does. So getting into that tradition number, we had Adam Heller, who was amazing. He did a great job, in contrast with Michael McCormick, who did it last time, who was real funny and real loud and boisterous, where Adam Heller played it a little bit more softer, a little more endearing on that. And again, it's almost like seeing a different show. Big dance numbers. Again, this one, again, sorry, it's kind of hard to see the LED screen in the back, but again, it just fulfills that illusion that the set pieces that are hanging from the trusses above, that you are looking down an entire village. Huge dance numbers, and I just love all the colors that it incorporates. And when you find those reflections of the trees that are in there, I just think it kind of makes the visual full. And then obviously Frumacera, when she comes out, I actually really liked how they did that this year. You have the ghost of somebody's wife coming back to haunt them in a dream, and they had this girl that was on the shoulders of somebody running her around the stage, and it was actually really good, and it didn't scare the children that I had with me, so that was great. Wedding scene, very, very good. And then we had the bottle dance, classic number, and then the behind the scenes look when they're about to enter the stage of what it's starting to look like when they're getting released to get out there. And this is another proud moment of mine. This is one of my interns. She was group sales, and she is now stage manager intern. And she has to dress like a character in the show, so that if she has to run out on stage, she doesn't pull people out of what they're watching. There's our stage crew to kind of go with that. These are stage hands that eventually they're going to have to run out on stage and move things around, and we don't want you to lose where you were in the story. We want this to be a smooth transition, so they dress like characters in the show, and they have a good time when they get to wear costumes. And then this is what it looks like when we need additional voices in the back to do some harmonies. We have this awning right near the dressing rooms. Like, dressing rooms are down that hallway, but we have this awning where these kids, and there's another picture for a different show, where they'll kind of gather around a microphone and they are just doing those additional vocals. So it may not require them on stage, but they could maybe add that little extra to Sunrise Sunset. So this is the Frumacera. They even put contacts on her, which was kind of freaky, but she had a great time doing it, and I caught it. Unfortunately, I couldn't upload the videos, but the videos of her climbing onto somebody's shoulders, who was eventually going to run her around. It was really fun watching her practice photos on that one. And then you have when somebody that oversees makeup and wardrobe doing those final touches before sending a rabbi out. And we moved on to waitress. It was a quick flip into the waitress world. And pre-show, one of the things that we have for all 7 shows is there's going to be 2 performances by Muny kids, 2 performances by Muny teens over in one of our rehearsal spaces. So this is a group of our Muny kids. I believe this is after they perform because they look pretty happy at that point. But yeah, they go out and they learn a routine, but it's also part of our education program. And I'm astounded by these kids every day. And I remember seeing some of them when they were auditioning for the first time, and now they're about to transition to teens, so I'm feeling nostalgic about it. And here is another part of our education program. These were our marketing interns, and what these 2 personally put together is that they wanted to address the topic in the show of Waitress, which was about this woman utilizing baking and her talents through baking pies in order to get away and escape from this really aggressive, abusive relationship that she's in. So what our interns did is they had this pre-show activity called What Baking Can Do. And they had these local St. Louis bakeries in town that would come and have little bites for people to test. And in the meantime, we had one of our nonprofits, Lydia's House, and it was actually kind of amazing that somebody came in for the free seats, somebody that was kicked out of their home and their relationship. She needed a place to hide and she didn't know where to go, so she just went to the Muny for free seats. And these ladies happened to be there and they got her into a home that night. So it was something that you don't expect. You just think that you're going to be passing out some bites and letting people know of a really good organization in town doing great things, and you end up helping somebody. And it was all those interns that did it. They put that together. So this was a really cool way how they set up this set, is that you have this trailer, you have this diner, and there was picnic tables out, and you have all these cars parked around, making it look like it's just a roadside diner. And it was such a different touch, but I think it was really effective and made us a little different than other folks that are doing this show. On our right is the Miss Jessica Vosk, who is, she played Alphaba on Broadway. She's been in actually a lot of our shows now because she keeps loving to come back, but she is just a powerhouse of a person, and she's starting to do these solo performances at Kennedy Center and Carnegie, and she's just has the most fabulous voice, and the charisma, the camaraderie between these 3 was just really palpable during the show. I think they were just so much fun to watch. This is obviously one of the baking scenes where it's kind of interesting to try to set up a baking scene on our stage, but they did it. They just brought in some racks. These 2 were the comic relief, I believe, and this gentleman, he is on The Daily Show, and I watch him all the time, but he really did a different take on the character of Ogie, who is just the very out there personality that this girl meets online during online dating. So it's, and they get to use the diner as a set to meet. But again, incorporating the LED screens to make it look just as if they are a part of everything, a part of the nature and the environment of what is being said on stage. It's pretty cool to watch. This is the wedding scene. This is what he decides to get married in. They are Civil War reenactors, and spoiler alert, they get married. Eventually, definitely big numbers, and then at the end, she has her baby, who eventually grows up, and her name is Lulu, and I think at this point everybody's crying. So yeah, on the production side, you had the music director not sitting as high as the gentleman during Les Mis, but she's still in that eye shot on that lift. And eventually you can kind of see Jessica Voss getting ready to be lifted for her big reveal, and setting up a motorcycle to go on that lift as well, adding those technical things. And then also for more backup vocals, these are some of our Muny teens. They were part of the Muny Teen Ensemble, and they get to have exposure and work with these Broadway creatives that come in to be on our creative teams. These kids get to expand their resumes and help them further along and get them way ahead of the game, and they can say, this is what we learned in St. Louis. So it's starting to become a big deal that a lot of kids that are going through our education program, they're having a lot of success because they work in our conditions, they feel like they can do anything, and they're getting really good networking contacts that will help them in their future. Lastly, we're on the second to last show. But in the Heights, this was different. We did this, I don't know if anybody got to see this one, but this had a lot of technical aspects that we don't really get to use a lot in shows. And it was really amazing how they did it. But there's a step and repeat. It was lots of fun. We had people come teach folks in the Upper Plaza how to do different dances. And then we had even cultural groups that wanted to come in and do a dance, and even teaching some folks. It was really cute to watch. But this set ended up being my favorite show, actually. Just the way how the set was different, and how every song just started escalating even more and more each time. And so eventually they start this song, and then more space, a boom will back up, and then there's even more dancers back here, and then that will back up, and there's even more over there, and you just have an army of people dancing, and it's just, it was a new experience for me. So we had fireworks in this one. We love pyrotechnics when we get to use them. And so yeah, this was our big firework moment. And then this was different. They brought out something to be a fire hydrant on stage. And so you've got this hose that was hooked up to it, but they're dancing in what would be a fire hydrant, because that is what they do in the original show. Even though they were just insinuating it, we actually did it. We actually threw water at our actors. And eventually this kid, when before the fireworks go off, they're lighting his fireworks, and so that he can run out on stage. He's in very capable hands. He was our dance captain, and he's one of our great dancers that we have in every year. So who better to give him fire? And then lastly, anything goes. It was a great way to end the season. It was just such a lighthearted, funny. The cast was just breath of fresh air when you have it's usually that the first week or two of August that it really starts, the heat's really starting to build on you, and then you have just this group of people that come in and are like, okay, let's do this last show. This is during pre-show, this is our Muny Young Friends. We have a group of people that will come and see shows together. They may not know each other already, but they know that they want to see a show, and they can get a discount, and so they come and they picnic, meet, and then go see a show together and make new friends. And it's becoming a really nice social activity to go to do. This is Jenna DeWall. She played our Mary Poppins. I don't know if anybody saw Mary Poppins when we did it 2 years ago. She's Mary Poppins. She was also in the musical Diana, based on Princess Diana. Lovely person, wonderful voice, but she was playing a Reno Sweeney. And we had John J. Armstrong, who is a big tapper. He's usually he's in our 42nd Street. He was in Newsies, a big dance type of guy. Anytime you see 42nd Street pictures, it was him in ours. Obviously, big dance number. Our comedic folks. We have Ann Harada on the left and James Young on the right. They're starting to become veterans on our stage, and because they love our audience, and they love the humor, and they love it when our audience gets their jokes. And Eric James Young, I mispronounced his name, Eric James Young. So yeah, big anything goes number. You got Reno up there. I really liked with the set designs of this, just how the minor touches that had a certain feel, and we even incorporated that even in the Muny t-shirts that we were selling. Adriana Hicks, I don't usually fangirl out. I really don't go up to anybody saying I'm a big fan of yours, but I'm a huge fan of hers. She played Catherine of Aragon in the latest Six on Broadway, which is about the 6 wives of Henry VIII. And so number one, I already thought she was great, but my nieces loved to dance to her songs. And so when I got to meet her, she got to meet my niece, as well as I got to show her the video of my niece dancing, trying to be like her. And that was probably one of my favorite Muny moments this summer. But wonderful person, she wants to come back so bad. She had a great time. We have in the Yale sweatshirt, that's our Lara Teeter. He's definitely one of those folks that as soon as he enters the stage, he gets his big applause. He was in so many of our iconic roles, and doing Singing in the Rain, and he was in Little Mermaid, I think 3 times ago, and he's just such one of our Muny family members that he just walks out and he gets a big applause. So he's our local hero. George Budd, he was actually, I'm sorry I'm making this really personal about me, but so my first time going to Broadway, I got to see him in the show The Band's Visit. And so when I told him, I'm like, you were in the first Broadway show I ever saw in New York on Broadway. And it was his first time being at the Muny. And I think that at that moment, he kind of knew that people knew of him, and he was feeling good about it, but he was definitely not expecting me to say that. But yeah, and hopefully he's around more. He was in our 1776, and he came back for this, and he's starting to really enjoy being around. Ann Harada again. If you saw Mamma Mia, she was the short mom in Mamma Mia, or not mom, the short friend in Mamma Mia. Really funny. And then backstage photos of when they're kind of getting ready to open up the booms. And they're getting ready to put this on the track, on the stage, or actually helping the track get it off stage. And so then that was last year. That was last summer. Then we had a concert. Did anybody make it to the concert? It's okay. I'm not judging. So yeah, we held this concert for the first time in over 30 years. And it was such a great experience, and to have it be not only John Legend, but have our orchestra, our symphony play with him, it was just this great community vibe. And people that have never been to the Muny before, but not only got to see our symphony, got to see John Legend, got to come to our property, and I feel like you got like kind of best of all worlds of just kind of full circle St. Louis coming together to offer an experience that you can't have anywhere else. It was a great night. It was probably the coldest night I've ever worked at our theater. It was down to 74, it was freezing. But it was really good. Of course, utilizing our trees, and eventually there was stuff on the LED wall to incorporate, and fireworks, because we love fire. We love pyrotechnics. We love that excitement. And so I know I'm kind of talking really long. So we just announced our 2025 season, and I'm very excited. I don't have specific details. I don't have actors yet. But what happens now is we just announced the week of Halloween. We just announced it. So now what's happening in the office is that we are getting our creative teams together. Who's going to direct? Who's going to choreograph? Who's going to be the set designer? And they're building those teams. And once those teams are built, then we start holding auditions. And we hold our local auditions, and then we hold auditions in New York, and then we decide between Chicago or LA of where we're gonna have another equity audition. That's kind of the equity union contractual policy. So yeah, that will be beginning of the year. And then eventually we start knowing who's starring in the show around March and April. And usually we'll have people signed on, but Netflix and Amazon Prime will take our people, and then we have to say, okay, just remember us, that we let you out of this, but you gotta come back to St. Louis, and they usually do. But yeah, those Netflix people. So we're doing Bring It On. We are, there's Bring It On the musical. It's not an exact replica of the movie. It is slightly loosely based on it, but it's fun. It's a Friday Night Lights kind of feel, not the movie Friday Night Lights, but it's just that the culture of our Friday Night Lights of coming together. There's big cheerleading, there's got this competition, and the music is wonderful. Lin-Manuel Miranda, who did Hamilton and In the Heights, he was part of the writing team on this. So we're excited. There will be cheerleaders. There will be people flying in the air. I'm asking a bunch of questions about insurance, but no one else is. They're just like, we'll deal with that later. Then we're doing Come From Away. Anybody that saw it at the Fox, it is a really great show, and it's perfect for our stage because it's about community. It's about people being there for others to get them through something, get them through a moment or whatever. And this show, the music is great, especially someone like myself who loves like Celtic and drums. I love Irish, like it's my background. But in Newfoundland, that's a lot of the touch in their music. And so a lot of it is that beat, the bodhrán, and just people stomping and clapping, and it's very joyous, and it's well needed for such a deep topic of 9/11 flights being directed to Newfoundland, and this is based on this true story. And so I'm excited. I'm really excited about this one. Then we have Frozen. We're doing Frozen. I'm already getting lots of calls with groups about Frozen. Everybody wants to bring their grandkids and their kids and their schools and their Girl Scouts. If you love hanging out with kids, this is the one to come to. There's going to be costumes galore, and I am all about it. I just have to wait a very long time. But it's going to be amazing. And also some of the cool things about it is when this was on Broadway, two of our actresses were actually playing the Anna and Elsa. So we had Caroline Bowman, who was in our All Shook Up, which was it's a jukebox musical with Elvis music, but it's based on the story of Twelfth Night. And she, who plays the main woman in there, she plays Elsa on Broadway. And then there was Patty Murin, who she was in our Little Shop of Horrors, and she was in our Holiday Inn, and she was in Chicago, not this one with one before. Anyway, she played Anna. So the fact that we already have some of our folks that have been in this, I'm curious if we're gonna get them, I don't know. Hope so. Then Evita. So I've only seen it at the Rep, and it was great there, and so I'm excited to see what they do when they add a lot more people, because you have that space, and yeah, that will be a very heavy, bulky show, and I definitely, whoever's playing that, Ava Perron is going to be a powerhouse, so I'm excited, whoever we end up casting on that. Dear Evan Hansen. This is definitely a more recent show. It had a big wave of popularity, but it's just kind of, especially in a world where, we want to make sure that we are showing shows that are out there for the teenage demographic and are out there going with what some teens are facing. And this is kind of a way of having that relatable topic, but also maybe just having something that is their trend of music, and kind of pull those in and welcome them to the musical theater world. But yeah, Dear Evan Hansen, a lot about mental health and somebody dealing with anxiety and depression, and whether you take it one way or another, It's about the people that are trying to figure out how to help you. Next one is La Cage aux Folles. The Birdcage is one of my favorite movies of all times, and so now I'm excited because The Birdcage with Robin Williams and Nathan Lane was based off of the show. And it's going to be so much fun and flashy, and it's just I'm super excited to see what it's gonna do. And it's about bringing this family together that is completely opposite and set in a really exotic place. And so yeah, this will be fun, glitzy glamour. And lastly, we're doing Jersey Boys again. If you saw it last time, I think we had like a rain out or 2 rain outs during this one, or I think we had a rain out and we only did 1 act of it because of the rain. So folks that didn't get a chance, this is another try, another go at it. But Jersey Boys is such a fun show. Frankie Valli in the seasons, you just have this great jukebox. And anybody that wants to see the movie before coming, if you haven't seen the show before, that's how I learned about it. It's watching a Clint Eastwood movie. It's great. So yes, that is everything I know. Is there any questions or yes?
Is this our second stage, or how many stages have they replaced since the beginning?
It's always been a building on and building on situation. There's never been a start over. So this was the first like start over.
Around this.
I
mean the circular part.
The turntable. I want to say there has, as far as that's been done, I know of at least 4 projects. Okay. So sometimes it's replacing, sometimes it's just repairing, and that causes more, when it's the repair ones, usually you're going to have to do it again. It's kind of just, it's like one of those capacitators. You gotta fix it again. But yeah, this one, and the great thing about it is that with the company that we work with, they're great. Like, they'll just fly over from England and fix it. Like, all right, thanks. That helps us. Any other questions? Anyone interested in auditioning? Well, I hope you guys come visit us, even if, whether it's to see a show or just kind of come out, hang out with us pre-show. I won't make you stay. Just come for a beverage. But yeah, thank you so much.